and welcome back to Purposeful Woman podcast. And today we have beautiful Winter. Winter, she is a third generation intuitive, third master Reiki healer and spiritual life coach. Author of two books, Goddess Grows Up, You Are the Gift, and Our Shadows, Our Light, a writing journey with Goddess. Hi and welcome, Winter.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. All right, I would love to hear for you to share how, that's like your life journey, third generation intuitive, how you became third generation intuitive.
I had a very unusual childhood in that I didn't find out that I was a third generation intuitive until I started experiencing abilities and gifts unfolding, and I would go to my mother to ask her about them. This was at the age of 10, asking her what was happening, and she would like brush it off as like a cup of, something as simple as a cup of coffee, like, oh, this is because of XYZ. And it's funny because her nonchalant attitude around it made me feel like, oh, no big deal. So like I had no fear, like as more and more things began to unfold for me. So at the age of 10, I had my first mix of lucid dreaming as well as contact with someone who had passed on, namely my sister, who had been born before me, but she had a rare birth defect at the time. So she lived for only moments and no one had a camera. So I had never seen her, only my parents knew what she looked like. And she came to me in a dream. And I saw her come from behind these clouds, like this little baby face looking at me. I'm just like looking back at her. And then she disappeared behind the clouds again. And I woke up and found my parents and told them what happened. And my mom started crying and my dad was like, that was your sister. And I'm like, okay, weird, whatever. 10, going back to sleep now. And after that, as I got a little older, I continued having dreams where people who had passed on would show themselves to me and I would tell my mom about them. And that's when I found out she could see them too. So I would have a dream about someone, I would tell her about it, and she would describe, like, did they look like this? I'm like, yeah, how did you know? And she's like, I see them by the coffee machine in the morning in the kitchen. I'm like, why did you say nothing? She's like, well, it wasn't a thing until now. So this is largely how my childhood was. And she would give me different tools, not tell me what to do with them, like a tarot deck. I'm like, what's this? She's like, just play. So that's what it was like growing up. And I realized that she had abilities too through that interaction, but also that my grandmother had abilities as well, as a fascination for psychics and mediums that she would often host in her house. So after school, my mom would say, guess what? You're going to go get a reading at grandma's house. I'd be like, okay, who's the new psychic this time? So it was very normalized for me. And when I became an adult, I realized this was not the case for most people. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. How did you choose it to actually do this for life work?
At first I didn't. I was following like the societal mode of, I went to college. I have like 3 different like university degrees, like trying on different things. I was a teacher. I was a massage therapist, like doing all these things, and nothing felt fully me, like fully like what I was supposed to be doing. And then when I was in my, I want to say like late 20s, early 30s, my grandmother passed, and I had this oh no moment. My grandmother, she was a really like cosmopolitan kind of lady, and I secretly like admired her from afar. I felt like she was kind of like the Madonna of her time. So when she passed, I'm like, okay, no more hosting psychics and mediums in the home. My mom's not doing anything with her abilities. That means it's up to me. And as soon as I had that realization and began to take those steps forward into it, it was like the universe was waiting for me to have that realization and do it. So all these things began falling into place between mentors, teachers, resources. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. This is such a beautiful story. I love it. I love to hear it. In my child, when I was growing up, that was not normal. So I just like stuck them up, numbed them down, which is fine, we still grow, as we grow up, we learn how to deal with them and do. So what would you say for those people who are like me and, it wasn't normalized, like where would you start? What would be your number one tip, where to start to connect to your gifts? Intuitive gifts, soul gifts.
Lots of times I tell people the key and then I get a groan after I tell them this. I'm like, the key is meditation, right? And they're like, oh, like want. But other ways that you can connect with your intuition, meditation just helps you create that space, that environment, so that your ability to be able to hear your inner guidance system is supported, because it becomes louder when you create that quiet space. But another way that you can learn how to connect with your intuition is, and I know this happens with a lot of people, when you get those little nudges, like when you're rushing around the house and you get that little notification, that ding that goes, oh, you better grab your jacket. Or, oh, you might want to bring a snack, but there's no why. It's just like this slight note, possibly like inconveniencing you. And lots of times we're just like, yeah. Well, we push it aside. But if you start paying attention to those little notifications that your inner voice is trying to give you, it leads you down this path of these beautiful synchronicities that start to unfold. And those notifications get a little bit louder and you begin to develop a trust for it as well.
Oh, I love that. I love it. So what will be number one mistake that people make? As you see, you probably do a lot of readings, and like, what is the number one mistake of them doing it in life?
Questioning it. I see so many people filled with self-doubt, and when I help people through readings, when they ask, like, I don't know how to tell the difference between my inner voice and like this other information that's coming forth, which is usually the mind, the ego, and the fear. And I tell them, generally, if it feels scary, anxious, anything that is not pure love, that's not your intuition. That's just your ego trying to control the situation. And usually it'll pop up when we're about to do something really big, like a change or a shift. And ego's like, whoa, that's not familiar. We want to stick with familiar. So, yeah.
Thank you. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And I know you have a beautiful gift for our audience. Can you tell us more?
I do. I have a wonderful curiosity call. And with this, I invite people to reach out and connect with me. I know there's lots of times when people are trying to go onto YouTube or like Google searches about different like things that they're experiencing, whether it's like repeating numbers or symbols. There's so much information out on the internet, and honestly, I am really, really happy and honored to be able to provide that little bit of clarity and guidance as to like what's really unfolding.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. And where they can find you? If I will link everything in the show notes as well, but I would like for you to share where people get in touch with you. What's your best way to reach out?
Yes, the best way to reach out and get in touch with me, find out more about me and all that good stuff, is through Instagram. My handle is @soulcallcoaching.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for listening or watching to this episode. And as always, we go to show notes. There was all the links and episode page, and we would love to hear more from you. How are you liking it? And also get in touch with Winter, because I am going to take that curiosity call opportunity. I see lots of numbers last month, and I'm so curious of what there means.
Yes, love it.
All right, thank you, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Bye. And if you love this episode and you would love to see more of that, click the subscribe button to Purposeful Woman Podcast. And don't forget to text us to stay in tune with the Purposeful community for awesome tricks by texting to number +1 401 399 4105. And we will link descriptions in the episode to all of that we mentioned today. Bye. Turn your one day to day one with a purposeful day.